Hey guys, Scrambled Cristiano here. Sorry for not posting much. I've been hard at work at Kid Clown Reanimated, and school's been on my ass. But I'm back. So let me tell you about a little game that I actually own called Super Puyo Puyo. The game's about a girl named Arrow who learns about a new spell called what's it say again?
Owanimo.
Owanimo. It's the best I can do. I'm dealing on a time crunch. Anyways, she uses that spell to fight off against other people using these small little blob creatures called Puyos, or mean beans, if you're weird. And this goes so far to an extent that she battles Satan. Where did that come from? Huh? Actually, that's one thing this game has going for it. The cute character designs and the little stories that play in between each stage. They're all super charming, and it makes you motivate yourself to continue playing the game. Now, on the contrary, at first glances, it just looks like another generic connect all four pieces puzzle game, but there are actually a lot more layers to it than you think. For starters, you can create combos in this game, depending on how well you do your placements. This causes the player to think about their turns before making the move. The more combos you're able to pull off, the more junk blocks you'll be able to put on the opponent's side. It's a really fun mechanic. Some opponents are faster than others, so you want to keep a lookout for that too. There was a lot more thought into this game when it really didn't need it. Kudos to Compile for making it possible. But yeah, I think Super Puyo Puyo is a very fun puzzle game, and you should definitely add it to your collection if you can. Now, what does this have to do with the video? Well, if you read the title, you would know exactly where this leads into. So, this is Bomberman. If you don't know who Bomberman is, which I doubt, Bomberman is one of the mascots for Hudson Soft before being bought out by Konami. So now he's under Konami's name and he doesn't make any games anymore, despite having some like a couple years back, and Konami doesn't give a shit about Bomberman. Fuck Konami, fuck Konami, fuck Konami! Excuse my little tangent there, but I'm not sure if you could tell or not, I really like Bomberman. But anyways, during the 90s, Bomberman had a bit of an experimental phase. There were a lot of spin-offs during that time, and Hudson Soft was pretty ambitious for the time, really wanted to get Bomberman's name out there. They even made a Virtual Boy game, and you know how the Virtual Boy went. So this leads to today's topic, Super Bomberman Panic Bomber W! Or as the fans just shorten it, Panic Bomber W, which for now on I'll just be calling it that for the rest of the video. Booting up the game, you realize this isn't a typical Bomberman game, it's a Bomberman puzzle game. No, well technically classic Bomberman is a puzzle game, or at least classified as one. This one is a much more traditional puzzle game in essence. The story here isn't as insane as fighting Satan, so let me just run through it real quick. Basically, Bomberman takes a vacation after defeating the 5 Dastardly Bombers, and in the meantime, chaos emerges when the world bombers get mind-controlled by the evil Emperor Bugler. So now it's up to Bomberman to snap the world bombers back to reality and kick Bugler's ass. I wonder if this will change at the end of the game. Stage 1, Jamaica. Alright, we gotta smack a few enemies in the head real quick. Oh. Am I feeling deja vu? Yeah, so Panic Bomber W is just a blatant Puyo Puyo knockoff. They're not even trying to hide it. It's the same exact mechanics, except you gotta match 3 blocks now instead of 4. Ooh! Okay, well I'll give Hudson Soft this. They did attempt to differentiate themselves from Puyo Puyo, but ultimately it's not really a change that nobody would notice on their first playthrough. I'm still gonna talk about them though. For example, you're able to do patterns diagonally now, which is a very handy feature, especially for last-minute combos. And surprisingly, this wasn't something you could do in the original Puyo Puyo. It was only vertical or horizontal. Another difference is that during your playthrough, many level effects will play in throughout all your puzzle battles. Sometimes the screen will be covered up, and other times all your blocks will just straight up disappear, which comes very handy if you screw up a lot of the time. And trust me, you will do that because the speeds get insanely fast in this game. Yeah, this was technically in the original Puyo Puyo, but it was only limited to the first player practice mode. One more major difference is that the background occasionally changes throughout your playthrough. They're very charming to look at, although most of the time they get covered up by your little bombers. Speaking of which, the Puyos have been replaced by these little Bombermen. Ah. And there are two types of junk blocks. There are the hard blocks that can be destroyed using bombs, and there are the bombs with the eyeballs. You can't destroy them at all until you get a big bomb. So for the most part, they're just sort of chilling there. That's another difference actually. You can't destroy any of the junk blocks by making combos in between them, like in Puyo Puyo. But anyways, now that I got all that cleared up, let's move on to the first stage boss, Rasta Bomber. He's holding some maracas and he has Rasta bombs. He's very easy to play through. He's got a nice jingle though. In fact, now that I mention it, this game's soundtrack is amazing for the Super Nintendo. At the time, Hudson Soft was really trying to stretch the full potential of the Super Nintendo sound chip, which is why Super Bomberman 3 sounded like pure CD audio. And here it's really no different. The music in this game is super impressive. Here's some of my favorite tracks from the soundtrack. Okay, enough music talking. Let's move on to the second stage, the United England? Whatever, I guess this game knows better geography than me. We go through the first few batches of enemies until we get interrupted by Pretty Bomber? What is she doing here? She says that she wants to avenge her friends, which I'm assuming are the Dastardly Bombers since she is a part of them in Super Bomberman 2 and 3. And depending on the difficulty, you won't be able to access this fight at all. It gives the game a little bit of replay value. Anyways, after defeating Pretty Bomber, we now have to fight off against Rock Bomber. I think that's his name, I didn't bother looking up. Anyways, we beat his ass, and then after that we move on to where we fight off a couple enemies, and then after that we encounter this Cowboy Bomber, which I don't know the name of. I think his name is Bomber the Kid. I didn't bother looking it up. I like his pose when you beat him. He's just like, whatever, man, you win. Just leave me alone. Let me ride my horses in peace, please. After that, we move on to stage 3, Kenya, where we meet our fourth boss, Animal Bomber. You know, this is all starting to really clump into my head. That's one thing I don't really like about the game that much. The presentation could be better, to say the least. Puyo Puyo, the interactions were cute, but here it's the equivalent of a slideshow. The only real cutscene we get is the ending cutscene, and even then, it's not that much. More on that later. After defeating Animal Bomber, we move on to... And man, this is where the difficulty spike really starts to rise, because goddamn, this stage fucked me up. So there's this ninja bomber that interrupts you during it, and like... Jesus, man, the amount of times I died to this guy was unreal. Anyways, after pure luck, we go against Karaoke Bomber, who has microphone-shaped bombs? Huh, that's kinda silly. Anyways, we kick his ass and we go to space! This is the final part of the game, where you fight against Bugler, the person who started all this chaos. But man, he's such a pushover, and surprised how well I did on my first attempt of all things. I was honestly kinda disappointed, and if you're playing on the easy difficulty mode, this is the only boss that's there. But if you play at the harder mode, you unlock a secret final boss. That being Space Bomber, who wants to eat the Earth. He has nothing to do with the mind controlling, he just wants to eat the Earth. I don't know why he's here. And Jesus Christ, he's so hard! It's pure luck to win against this guy. I had to use over 20 continues. 20! Thank God this game has unlimited continues, because if not, I don't even think I would be able to finish this game. But anyways, you defeat Space Bomber, the War Bombers are back to normal, White nods his head, and roll credits. And that was Panic Bomber W. Honestly, if you're a fan of Puyo Puyo, this might be up your alley. It's a very confident knockoff, despite being very blatant. It's still tons of fun, and I still recommend it if you're a fan of Puyo Puyo, Bomberman, or puzzle games in general. Just because it's a ripoff doesn't mean that it has bad intentions. It's still a fun game overall, especially the multiplayer mode. It can go up to 4 players, kind of like in Puyo Puyo 2, and that came out before this, so coincidence? No, it can't be. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. I'm trying a new format style, and hopefully this will stick around longer enough. Here's some separate artwork of Arrow, and since you stayed long enough, here are some bloopers. Or consider watching my other shit, I guess. Bye-bye! And there are 2 types of jump hole. What was that? Oh my god, why do I keep on stumbling on my words? Come on, tongue, start working. But it was only limited to the first player